Welcome to the History of Business Central, Episode 0, PC+. Hey, I'm Eric, and welcome to the first episode where I will try to walk you through the entire history of what we know today as Business Central. Our story actually starts way back. And the reason I call this episode 0 is because we're actually going to talk about a product that was the one that came before what we eventually will know as Business Central. And it was a product called PCPLUS. So PCPLUS was created by three guys straight out of engineering school. Jesper, Peter, and Torben. And it was a single-user accounting system. And we are at this point in, I think, I have a bit of conflicting sources on this, but as far as I can see, they actually started this around 83. And we saw a product in 84 announced, and 85 availability, something like that. I'm gonna show you this. You can see why this product eventually becomes. This is the Stone Age, but this is still. You can recognize stuff in it. But actually, let me start by detouring just a tiny bit, just to kind of set the landscape of accounting software in the mid-80s. And to be faithful, everything that you're going to see afterwards is basically running on something like this. This is the main board from an IBM 5150 PC, the IBM personal computer. The CPU in question, which we have here, is the 888, running at 4.77 megahertz. So it's slow. In order to record the video, we're going through some stuff here, but what you're seeing is the speed of how software ran at that time. So let me see if I can switch to that, and it still works. I think we're here. Yeah, we are good. So let me actually start by not showing what we're talking about, but let me run something here, and I hit enter, and this is a big program, multiple kilobytes, and this is DAC Easy Accounting from 87. That was the version I was able to find of this, and we can see that this, the 1986 PC World Class Award and 1985 InfoWorld Product of the Year. So this is the benchmark, right? This is the cream of accounting software on the fairly new. So the IBM PC came out in 81, quickly gained popularity. The XT came out a few years later, and we're just about the time where the 286 starts emerging and becoming available. So at least it starts with a pretty screen. So press any key, and you can always see how slow the screen is updating. We get into a main menu. We can select the number of what we want to do. So let's do a 1 and go to a general ledger. And we have, what do we have here? We have the option to enter transaction or print stuff or post transactions. So we can go into enter transactions, and the screen flashes a bit. So I'll do journal number 3, and I'll do transaction number 34. Then the whole screen updates, and we get a date up here. I hit enter on that, and then maybe I can remember an account number, 1102. No, that was not the account number. I press any key. Let's see, what can I do? I can press F1 for help, perhaps. Let's see, account number, enter the account number name will be, so I cannot look up. So can I do 1? No, that's not an account number. I can hit escape. No, escape is not allowed in this field. So I'm logged into this field 1106. That's not a number. 1102. 1101. That's that we got one. Description, tests, YouTube. Wow. I think this is YouTube. 103, and then we can do 1120 something. No, that's not. No, we'll do the same one again and do credit. So now we have a journal. We can hit process, I guess, F10. Then it just disappears. It's gone. I have no idea what happened. The only thing I can do here is in order to see anything, I need to print it on paper. That's the only thing I can do. Maybe I can go into. No, so you can see this is an awful experience, right? So let's forget about this. Let's go away. World class thingy. Okay, so let me show what happened in Denmark at the same time, or perhaps a little bit earlier. And I hit PCPLUS, and this so the software is in Danish. So the message here is because I'm running a piece of software that is not installed correctly. So it should have been installed and registered, but the name has not. So forget this message. Well, then, did you see that? That's a cool animation. Let's do that again. PCPLUS. So the company is called PC&C, and then the PC turns into part of the product name. And we are now in the main menu. And I should mention that the only reason I'm able to show you this is because some very nice people at Microsoft Legal, I asked them, hopefully very nicely, and they answered even nice and say, "Hey, Eric, if you sign your life away, you can use the source code of these very old products in order to show them on YouTube." So the only reason I'm able to do this and show you this is because a lot of people at Microsoft were total cool and helped me with this. So thanks for that. Anyway, we are at the main menu, and the main menu here, and I have to translate because this is in Danish. So use company, create company, make a backup, restore backup, delete company. So I'll totally use the company, and it was actually the company over here. So if I had more companies, I could select between them over here. So I'll just use the Eric A22. And now we get into the main menu. Actually, the way this works is that you buy access to the system, and then you get some secret keys that are sitting here somewhere. There. And then you enter those secret keys that are matched to your serial number, and then the different pieces of the software opens up. And we can see that we get into this, and then we have finance. You can almost so finance module, AR customer, AP vendors, inventory, and I have no idea how and this is, I guess, this is how brilliant these guys were, that they could foresee how the Sorting Hat from Harry Potter would look, like 15 years before the book was written. And the last one, which my head is covering the label for, is the general section, in which we have like company information and accounting periods and VAT stuff, and we have groups. So the way this works is that you did define some groups, and then instead of the classic posting groups we had out, you have 0 to 9, and basically for everything we define how many lines of print a page has. So in the days of matrix printer, you didn't really think about letter size or A4 or whatever. You figure out how many lines would your printer print on the paper you have, and 72 was quite normal in Denmark, at least. And you can define what escape codes you want to have for, bold and stuff like that. And then this is actually the report designer, believe it or not. So we can say let's actually create a report. We'll create an invoice, and this is let me explain how this works. So all these lines are basically fields that can be printed on the report. So what we have over here are X and Y coordinates of where to print the field. So in this case, this is the phone, so we can say that this should be on line 3, position 20. And we can see that this is 30 characters wide over here. So you build off all and say, hey, where should my stuff go on the report? So kind of a reverse thing, but 1985, remember? And remember the other one we just saw. So we will just call that invoice. And also here we have help, but much nicer than the other one. And if we hit help again, we get into the manual and we can read the manual. We can flip the pages. We can see that we're on page 130, and yeah, it's nice. Again, and by the way, so you hit F1, you get the whatever F keys are doing what for you right now, and you can see, you notice that the F keys are mounted in 2 columns. That's because that's the layout of the IBM Model F keyboard, which was the keyboard that came with the PC. So you had 10 F keys, not 12. You had 10 F keys, and they were on the side of the keyboard in 2 columns. And what we have here is like everywhere you can do F9, which the story goes that the calculator came into the system because of an American inspiration. So clearly the guys at PCC, Jesper, Peter and Torben, looked at like the software I just showed you, and some pieces of software, and it might just be like Ball and Sidekick or anything else like that, had like a calculator built in. So they say we need to make sure that no matter where you are in the system, there's a calculator. So there is. We got an invoice, and this one is basically to close out month, so we can close dates for posting, and we can delete old entries if we don't need them anymore. And the last one here is data exchange with Lotus 1, 2, 3, and I guess that's Lotus framework also, wasn't that? I think that was the name. So you can read your things in and out and in different formats. And if we go into the modules, we can look at finance, we can look at the chart of account, and I just created 2 accounts here, and slightly different way of doing totaling. So if I create another account here, and then if I add an S for sum, we get an asterisk, and then I can do sum, and then it says, hey, do from to account number. So we can see kind of how they thought about this, but not really the same way we have in the. Here's department. So at this point, department is not a true dimension. Department is a segment in a chart of account. We got the ledger, and works the same way as we would imagine. Maybe we should put them on the same thing here. Something else. We will hit F7 for posting. We post this. It's posted. Done. There we go. And here, compared to the other one, we can go and select printouts, and this is actually pretty cool. This is, so you can see when I go down here on the different reports, there are different request pieces over here. But what I can do is that I can say, hey, I want to print the balance, and I want to print the KPI report. And then you set the parameters you want, and then when you're done, you can print to screen here. And then it will print all the reports that you check. So first we'll get the balance, and then we'll get the other report just below it here. Again, printing on matrix printers could take a lot of time. So being able just to say, hey, now print everything, and then just let the printer print and go home or go to lunch. Pretty convenient. And we'll kill that thing. So this piece of software is, clearly way more user-friendly than what we just saw, and this caught the eye of IBM. When PCSE created this, they created a distribution agreement with a company in Denmark that would sell PCPLUS. At that point, software was sold together with hardware. People quite often, it was the first computer. So it was very natural you bought the software and the computer together. And PCNC and IBM were not able to make an arrangement, and PCSE could not really have the software distributed by 2 different companies or whatever it was. So it never turned into anything with IBM at that time. But this software is miles above anything else you could find at that point in the global scape. And I read an article from 85-ish, and this piece of software is actually written in, let me just go back here for a second. So this software is written in Pascal. So at the time we had a product called PolyPascal in Denmark, created by a guy called Anders Halsberg. PolyPascal later became what is known as Turbo Pascal. And in the article, Jesper explained that, hey, this stuff is going so fast around, but some information stuff is going so fast that we could probably release, show the source code in a couple of years, because then, the industry has evolved. But some of the pieces we hold very close to our heart, like, the menus and the screen updates. And he told, because those were not written in Pascal. Those were actually written in assembler. He was right. Because here is one example. And it is Pascal, but it's not Pascal. You can see up here we have a function called today that returns a string 6. So what we know as AL, is a subset of Pascal. The piece that we don't, the very important piece of Pascal that we don't have in AL is being able to define a type. So in this case, somewhere they defined a type called string 6 that they could hold a date. And we can see here, there's stuff that looks familiar. In this case, this is just a piece of AL that a piece of Pascal that returns today as a string. In Pascal, by the way, now just to explain, so a function is a procedure that returns a value, where a procedure is something that does not return anything. So that's slightly different. Anyway, we were here to look at the procedure called write screen. And back in the day, whenever you would want to access the screen, you had two options. You could either go through DOS, meaning that you'll have to call and interrupt 21 and then write to the screen, and it was kind of the speed of DOS. Or you could go directly to the video memory and because what's on screen were basically just a piece of memory that got replicated onto the screen. But in order to write directly to memory, you will have to use assembler, and that was what they told in this article, that hey, we did a lot of assembler to make our menus and screens super fast, which we just saw they were compared to the world-class piece of software. And sure, here is write screen, an X and Y, and an attribute, and a text, and a length. So Poly Pascal, and later the version of the source I have here is Turbo Pascal. It's converted into Turbo Pascal, but Turbo Pascal was kind of just the next version of Poly Pascal. And you can see you can write assembler code inside Pascal, and then you can actually pass your parameters into the assembler. And if we look down a bit, then we can see the one I wanted to show here is that, but if you're now writing directly to the memory where the screen is, then you have to support all the graphics card that existed at the time. Unfortunately, there was basically only two you have to support. You have to support a CGA card, and you have to support a monochrome card. So we got the monochrome piece. We can see here that they got a test that if BX is hex B800, then jump to monochrome. Otherwise, so this piece here is CGA, and then we got the monochrome piece later on, and then finally I think they put the text into whatever place they found it. And there's a different one here that does it slightly different. I don't know what the difference is between write and just write, but basically that was what you had to do in the 80s to be fast, because if you use DOS, then the speed of writing, what we saw in the other program, that clearly did not do this. That was using standard I/O to write to the screen. That's what you got. Another interesting implementation piece is that the actual program, and let me see if I can find it here. No, it's not. Okay, so when you're working in DOS, you had two options for creating an executable file. You have a .com file and a .exe. Today we still know .exe because that's the one that survived. What was special with .com files was that you could only work in 64K. Your program could not be bigger than 64K. So what Hausberg and company basically created was a way to move stuff in and out of memory. And that was called an overlay. So let me grab a random file here, and we can see that if I go down, maybe we can see that. Let's do overlay here. So that this function, oh, hang on, let me not edit anything, and go away, and go more away. So we can see that this function is as a well, not really comparable, but we would call that an attribute in AL perspective. This function is an overlay function, meaning that can be loaded in and out of memory. So you can only have, there's some rules for how you can only have one overlay loaded at the time or stuff like that. But there's only one thing on the screen anyway. So that's how they overcame the fact that even though they were limited to 64K of code, they could have way more because they used the Turbo Pascal, PolyPascal functionality. And Turbo Poly, I'll just say Turbo Pascal from this one on, the Turbo Pascal overlay functionality to actually build a bigger program than that. So this program became very successful. It cost $1,000 in 1985 money. I have no idea how much that is now, but in 1985 it cost $1,000, and this is a single user program. So in 19, let me just check my notes here. So in 1986-87 fiscal year, they had there were 7 employees in PCC, and they had a revenue around $1 million at that time. So and now that this became a very popular success, and with the fact that networks were starting to emerge, PCNC were actually looking into what to do, what should the next thing do, and in the next episode of this series, we'll talk about IBM and what happened and what became Navigator version 1. And I've shown you a couple snippets of code here. I'm not allowed to give out the code. I am allowed to look and answer questions and show other snippets if there's something that's interesting. There's pieces I will never show, handling how to handle the license stuff and all that good stuff. But if you do have questions about PC Plus, let me know in comments below. If you used PC Plus, let me know why you liked it. What was the number one feature? And I will then see you in the next episode. And that might be the one that's suggested here at some point. But clearly, since it's not recorded, the all-known YouTube algorithm might suggest something else for you, but it's probably a good one. So go check that one out. See you there. Bye.